Hello again, and welcome to another Light Reading podcast, the Notebook Dump Edition. Congratulations, you made it through another week. My name is Phil Harvey. I'm an editor here at Light Reading.
I'm Kelsey Zeiser. I'm also an editor at Light Reading.
Hey, it's Jeff Baumgartner, a senior editor at Light Reading.
Jeff, did you forget what your name was for a second? You had to look down
I
at your
did.
notes?
I had to think about it. It's been quite a week. Yeah, no kidding.
And just
Where
so
am I?
Just so
what day is it?
to pull the curtain all the way back, we're of course we record this on a Thursday, so it runs on a Friday, and we're like in the middle of earnings hell right now. Getting stories across and writing and trying to figure out what's been said and what they said before. So we're all a little bit, at the edge of our comprehension ability. So this should be a really good podcast.
Oh yeah. What am I doing? Yeah.
So let's start with Kelsey. let's get it off of Jeff's plate. What fell out of your notebook this week?
So I had it seemed like it was all subsea cables all the time this week. We had two podcasts. One was with Jim Fagan with Global Cloud Exchange, and he was just giving kind of an overview of the company and then talking about the subsea cable industry. And, Jeff asked him some great questions like, what if a shark bites the cable? What do you do? So that's a fun one to listen to. And then also talked to Sienna and Altibox Carrier. They had a joint project on an 800G deployment on Altibox's NOUK cable, and they said it was the Altibox is the first provider to achieve 800 gigs over submarine cable link. So that's pretty interesting. And they also were telling us about, their goal for customers and to, of course, provide more bandwidth, but also establish Norway more as a data center hub because they also have a lot of renewable energy and hydropower there. It's colder. So I thought it was interesting that they brought up that data centers used to be located in, I suppose, like major metro areas, or, the location was really important. But now with more edge computing, places like Norway kind of have their time to shine. So that was interesting to hear about.
Yeah. The location of data centers is interesting because it definitely, they're so big, so energy consuming, and they produce so much heat inside of the building itself that having them in more friendly climates and also places, let's be honest, that aren't going to be flooding every 5 weeks or something like that.
Bonus.
Not in the path of climate change storms and stuff like that. Not to say that Norway is not affected by climate change, but it seems to be a little less severe over there. So that's probably going to go into it as well. That's cool. 800 gigs also interesting because it's finally rolling out in a variety of uses. And it seems like we were it was still in the science project stage like 18 months ago. They were still in the testing phase and that sort of thing. So that's pretty remarkable and kind of exciting that 800 gig has gone as far as it has. And I guess we'll talk about, maybe many more commercial applications by the time we get to the OFC show, in 2023 in March, because that's usually where all the optical networking folks come out from under their rocks and talk to us.
Oh, sunshine.
I know I'm going to get email about that comment. Sorry.
Too late. Yeah.
Whoops.
So everybody check out Kelsey's podcast. Jeff, obviously you were just doing AT&T earnings covering the fiber side.
Right.
Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to talk about something else?
Yeah, right. Because we are kind of on the front edge of earnings season now, and AT&T is always one of those that go on that side of it. I thought from the broadband side, their story continues to be fiber to the premises, really. And once again, they added a bunch of fiber subs, but they also lost a bunch of non-fiber subs, and it's pretty even. It's like kind of a wash almost, but they came under they lost like 28,000 or something when you combine them together. But the other kind of takeaway there was that their AT&T's fiber subscriber base has surpassed the non-fiber subscriber base. I think it happened like this is the quarter where they kind of crossed over. They don't even put DSL in that group. It's almost like, and then there's DSL, and they're just melting down.
The middle child kind of.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, can we please just get past this thing? I think they built out like 500,000 more fiber locations during the quarter. Interestingly enough, some analysts thought that was kind of weak. I think they were expecting them to be like around 1 million like cadence per quarter. So it's like, come on, AT&T, kick it into gear here. But I think they're definitely moving as fast as they can. I think that their long-term plan is like 30 million locations by 2025 is still on track, despite all that. So, maybe they're still feeling some of the supply chain thing. And then, again, Netflix is always kind of the first one out of the chute for us on the earnings.
Yeah.
They're right at the beginning of the week, and it's almost like the world's like, oh, Netflix is back from the dead, because it lost some customers in the second quarter, and they're like, oh, we got to do this ad.
Right.
They're going to launch this ad supported tier. And then they come out and they blow the subscriber gains forecast out of the water. And then everyone's just like, oh, streaming's great now. A few weeks ago, it was falling apart. It just shows you just how the knee-jerk fickle reactions that you get out of the industries we cover sometimes.
I feel like they did recently. They've launched a lot of interesting content. I was talking to a friend yesterday. There's a show, I think The Good Nurse is coming out later this month with like Jessica Chastain and Eddie Redmayne. And I was like, dang, they got some good actors coming. So
is that like
maybe they threw some more money at it. Yeah, I think it's based on a true story
or something. Sorry.
Yeah. This one I think is based on a true story of a nurse who is doing some shady stuff.
It's like they're like, are they reimagining every show on the face of the earth? Yeah, I thought it was like the recent Good Wife wasn't good enough. They got to do another one now. But it's something different. It's like when they're talking about
she's now a good nurse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's a good point about the culture of IP and I guess, Hollywood storylines and stuff is that if you, IP meaning intellectual property, since we're talking to a telecom audience in this case.
Yeah, different IP.
Yeah, exactly. But if you just wait long enough, the show that you meant to get around and watch will be completely remade, and then you can just catch up with the new show. So that's what I'm holding out on a couple of long-term series. It used to be Prestige Television.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting for them to get completely remade with new actors so I can just catch up on the new one.
Yeah.
And not even
the one that
the old one.
The one that was like the perfect example of doing that and actually doing a good job in my mind, and maybe I'm like dating myself, is like Battlestar Galactica, right? It was like there in the 70s or it was 80s. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a campy, it was kind of a goofy thing. And then the reimagined one on Sci-Fi was very serious, and it was really riveting. I mean, they did a really good job with it.
Was it serious?
It was real serious.
I'm gonna set myself up for some backlash here, but I had trouble getting into it because they kept. Don't they say like fracking or something? And
that's kind of their cuss word.
That's right.
Yeah. Maybe to get through the censors.
That was definitely an old school, an old school TV leftover thing. Yeah. Was that in the future we don't have real cuss words? that was great.
All right, well, they screwed that part up, the whole cussing part.
But
everything else I like.
It's a good point though. I mean, they're, all these shows are bound to be remade eventually because there's not enough new stuff coming on board, or at
Mm-hmm.
least these studios don't know how to get a hold of new stuff quickly enough to get
Yeah.
people interested in it and to get the stuff made. So it's easier to just keep,
Yeah.
rolling out the same things over and over again. But yeah, Netflix is,
Well,
the ad tier thing happens in November, right? Is that when that
yeah,
starts?
yeah. It's like a dozen countries in November, and I think the U.S. is kind of in a second wave of launches, and I think
Mm.
it's like basic with ads. Are calling it. It's $6.99. They, they made some improvements. Like at least it's in HD now. Like the original basic Netflix tier was only in standard def, so they made everything HD. You only get one stream or something, but and not the full
Right.
catalog.
Yeah.
They're kind of being a little squishy about what movies or
Oh,
TV
okay.
shows won't make it because they need to rework some of the rights for the ad supported tier. I don't know if it's going to change the way I do it. I mean, I kind of on a family plan anyway, just uh, with kids and mothers-in-law and here in the house kind of all on board with it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, what about you guys? I mean, any interest in flipping over there? Because I know that's one concern, is like, are they going to cannibalize or have some customers downgrade?
We've been subscribing long enough that that it's kind of baked into our household entertainment budget. So it's one of those that if we ever got rid of Netflix, it would be because we were replacing it with like Peacock or something else that we were paying full price for.
Okay.
So it's just been kind of there for us, and we haven't really, and especially with the seasons of the British baking show and whatever. If I get rid of it, I'll have to go. I'll have to sleep out in the backyard or something. So
You'll be kicked out. Okay.
so yeah, it's already built into our family budget. I imagine there's a lot of people that way, especially with multiple folks in a household. But if I had held out and had just recently cut the cord from cable and was looking around at my options, I might actually start out with the most basic tier just to see, how big a deal it really is.
Yeah, kind of
I
get a
think that's
taste.
how a lot of people
Get a taste, see what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe some other people will do that, right? Kind of get a gateway into it and check it out at that price. And if they're like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm really enjoying the content. I'm not enjoying the ads as much. Maybe they'll bump it up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think
Kelsey, what about you? Are you a Netflix subscriber, or do you or might you be now that we have the ad tier?
Yeah, we have Netflix, and we're kind of on the family approach. Same with Jeff, and I have a couple other streaming services like the Disney Plus bundle, and then Prime comes just with our Prime account, and Hulu's under the Disney Plus bundle. But yeah, we kind of add and take away depending on what we're interested in watching. And I do like with like YouTube TV, you can kind of add channels that will you pay through your Prime account, and it's really easy to add and remove them. So I might add something just to watch a specific movie and then take it off later.
Yeah, to Jeff's point, I think that's what we're going to have to get used to from a coverage standpoint, is that the consumer choice is it's really really easy now for consumers to sign up for stuff and drop stuff, a month at a time. And so there's going to be some wild fluctuation between the different services depending on who has what sounds like the better content lineup coming into, the beginning of a month. People reassess their budget sometimes on a monthly basis, and they might look at a couple of things and be like, well, I don't want to miss this series, but I'm pretty sure I can drop these other two because if I'm watching this, I won't have time anyway. And now they can actually do that. Whereas before, I mean, you remember, like calling and canceling or adding anything to a cable subscription was like almost a week-long process.
Right.
Yeah. I think churn's a big
I thought it was
problem.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some I can't remember the name of the app, but there's like an app you can download that somehow aggregates all your subscriptions and tells you like what you're paying total each month. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting. Like, but do I really want to know at the same time,
Well,
like how much money
Yeah, it's almost
we're
like
throwing
out
at
of
all
sight,
this?
out of mind, or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't want to have the
Yeah.
sticker. I don't want to have the sticker shock. I want to avoid it. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Like,
It is. It does help. Bank of America and their sort of statements, or various banks are doing this now, where they'll kind of do a little bit of what you were talking about. That app does is it'll take things and kind of segment them for you and put it in a pie graph, so you can kind of see it at a glance what you're spending. And yeah, it is pretty eye opening, especially if you go into today's entertainment landscape with the thought of subscribing to something else besides pay TV as a way to save money. Trust me, that's not what ends up happening. It's like
yeah. I
you
also
usually end up spending more than you did before.
Yeah. With the new iPhone, it offered me 3 months of Apple Arcade for free. And I'm like, I don't even know if I want to try this because I'm probably going to get sucked in. And
It's like
that's
going to
totally what
Target.
happened. Yeah. So I've been
Yeah,
playing this game, Sneaky Sasquatch. which is
right.
so fun. Dan will come in. He's like, are you playing Sneaky Sasquatch again? I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
It's so good.
See, I'm still catching up with Angry Birds, but that's in the arcade as well.
Yeah.
And there's a cool pinball game in there too. But otherwise, I don't know what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
never mind.
Sneaky Sasquatch.
It's really fun. It's this like little Sasquatch, and you're trying to like evade the park rangers. And I got my taxi license so I can drive people around, but I'm a terrible driver, so I'm always bumping into stuff. And I have like a
Well, 'cause you've got
3-star
these giant
average
feet,
rating.
being a
Yeah,
Sasquatch,
exactly.
you know?
I have a terrible
Yeah, it's
rating, so the taxi company won't like officially hire me. It's a whole thing.
Oh.
Okay, well, that's more than I wanted to know. But thanks, Kelsey.
You're welcome.
This review brought to you by
let's
Kelsey.
see.
Yeah, like it.
I
Yeah,
mentioned I
right,
like
exactly.
him a lot.
I think you did. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll have to send some Sasquatch merch your way. I guess that's the next step. It'll be your new identity.
The sneaky
Um,
Sasquatch.
That's how podcasting works. As soon as you declare you like something, everybody decides that's all. This is all you're about. Yeah. So my coverage this week, late last week, I put up the post on AT&T, and it's kind of the network tour we took and that sort of thing. Kind of adding to that, this week I'm about to file a story on their mid-band 5G progress and what they've been able to, or what enabled them to be able to grow their mid-band spectrum and deploy it more quickly than they anticipated. A lot of that, interestingly, is the supply chain issues were not as bad as they thought. And then secondarily, they said they made some technology and architectural changes that they did not disclose, but they said helped them deploy more quickly and reach more people with fewer assets in the field. So I think that's remarkable. And I guess we'll see if that has a bearing on the quality of the connection that people have, whether they feel like their coverage is good enough and whether they feel like their coverage is fast enough. Because one of the things about, mid-band spectrum is it is the Goldilocks spectrum. So it's not as great as millimeter wave, but also, and it doesn't reach through as many places as the low band spectrum, but it does give you a very healthy connection through most scenarios that you're going to run into, and it does broaden their coverage tremendously. And that's why T-Mobile is actually in the lead right now, in terms of mobile subscribers, because they were the first to get out the most mid-band spectrum in the US. And and I'm a T-Mobile customer on the wireless side for that very reason. It just simply covers my neighborhood a lot better, and a lot more. I have a lot more of a clear connection on their network than I had previously with the other two. So we'll see if that affects AT&T. In the coming quarters. Too early to tell now, but the executives we talked to have already said that that's helping out with the quality of connection, and that they said they're getting better customer feedback and stuff like that. And so maybe it is starting to have an effect.
Well, it's interesting that they're definitely going to use it for mobile, right? Because I think midband is kind of being touted as well, like a technology you could do for fixed wireless access. But that again, and AT&T just kind of reiterated it on their earnings call, and that is, yeah, that, fixed wireless is going to be a piece of the puzzle, a very kind of a small piece. It'll be a part of the portfolio, but they're not going to lean on it very heavily. Definitely going to be using that mid-band stuff for mobile, whereas T-Mobile's a different story. So
that's what's interesting about the carriers comparing themselves to one another in general, is that they do come from such completely different starting points that the comparisons are almost silly in a way. Obviously, T-Mobile is higher on fixed wireless access, and it's doing a bang up job of getting people signed up, turned on, and deployed. I think they're like the ninth largest ISP in the country right now, and that's from zero a couple of years ago. So they're huge already. But with AT&T, of course, it's a different story. AT&T is looking down the road and saying, well, yeah, FWA is cool, but if we get people on our fiber network, they're going to spend a lot more money in the short term, and they'll stay with us a lot longer, because it really is hard to get a fiber customer to churn. Once you've had that fiber to the home connection, it's you're their customer for life, unless they just seriously screw up their pricing. And that seems to be playing out in the earnings as well. So I think it's two completely different strategies. And I guess caught in the middle somewhere is Verizon. They went down the path of being all about fiber at one point. Then they sold a bunch of their fiber assets, and now they're all about 5G and fixed wireless, but they're not doing as well as T-Mobile. So it's kind of interesting to see what Verizon
they're kind of in the middle
over the long
term. You're right. If you look at the spectrum in terms of where they're focusing their businesses. Yeah.
Google Fiber came to our neighborhood several months ago, and everybody was really excited, and we're watching them, put the fiber in, and we were going to switch over, and they just couldn't make it work. And I kept seeing technicians out trying to fix things, and we keep getting coupons in the mail, but I think just because we had not the best experience initially of trying to get it installed and playing kind of phone tag with them, that it's like,
Yeah, it's interesting too, because if you see when a carrier tries a new approach to reach broadband customers, it's really interesting to see, we didn't have the advent of this a few years ago, but you see your local Nextdoor app or your Facebook group with your homeowners association, or just wherever your neighbors kind of congregate online. You see these wildly different experiences from the same exact company and the same exact technology, just within a few streets of you. And it's quite interesting to see how just how varied the experiences are. Like, some people have no luck at all, and they cite all these terrible things happening. Other people, they connect right away, everything's great, and whatever. And so I always kind of marvel at how phone company or telcos and whatever can kind of compile and deal with all that, because it so depends on where your house is and what's around you as to how well your network connection's ever going to get.
Yeah. And then there's also that human error component of the users just messing things up, or just not knowing what they're doing, or maybe their hardware, something's up. So,
or you just have, like I said, sometimes it's the neighborhood itself. The place we lived in previously had a lot of wiring, both from cable and telcos, that came from phone poles that were bordering the property on the backside, and all of our neighborhood kind of backed up to these poles. And almost every time we had a windstorm or serious rain, it would take out somebody's service. somehow. And, because they were just sitting in between a bunch of trees, so limbs would fall on them.
We had that out east.
Squirrels would chew wires. The poles themselves
delicious.
would lean into things, and it was just chaos.
Yeah.
And so, when you go to a place like that, you just go like, oh yeah, so and so doesn't have very good service here. And it's like, if you dig a little deeper, you find out that, well, they do have decent service. It's just that they're supplying that service by stringing a wire from a 50-year-old pole that's got a red oak tree that's leaning on it. and then your connection goes to hell.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was connection talk, or maybe somewhat tree talk. We went from Netflix to this. What happened?
Tree talk.
So I guess we could wrap up here because we're kind of hitting the 25-minute mark. Is there anything else you guys were, covering this week that you want to alert anybody to?
I think I got to pitch something about New York being like the best spot for, I think it said for like vampires or some things. And how I just like delete, like I don't even have the energy.
We're getting all of our, that's a good point. We're getting all of our Halloween pitches from PR agencies who have no idea what we do for a living. We just ended up on a media list at some point in our past.
I got one like that from the internet. Was it IHOP now? Their scary pancakes. It's like, yeah, that's right in our wheelhouse. Yeah.
Scary pancakes.
You should go just to see if you can get some free pancakes.
There you go.
Okay, everybody. If you happen to see me online, my new nickname for all my social media handles will be Scary Pancakes.
You're welcome.
And hey, guess what? That concludes your notebook dump for the work week ending Friday, October 21st.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.